Hey, Brian Randolph, welcome in. Brian is a lawyer in DC, host of the Morning Report, Civics 101, and Down Ballot Roundup, and former deputy chief of the Civil Division for the American Samoa Attorney General. You are a cool guy, man. That is awesome. Welcome in. I would love to talk to you if you're down for it. Just having some late afternoon coffee and conversation, hopefully. So I'll share this out after I grab coffee. Maybe you popped in here by accident, which is totally cool. Come, go, as you please, as you will. But based on your bio and your background, I'd love to learn more from you and about you and what you work on. I'm interested in politics as a layman. You plug this in because Substack Lives really sap your battery life. And I was getting low. Ooh, I missed a call. Did I? Hey, Ariane, welcome in. Young hearts run free. Youth is for all. Wisdom is for all. That's really cool. I believe that wisdom is for all. And I do believe that young hearts run free. But I'm an old heart now. How are you today? What do you write on Substack, Ariane? Hey, Ash. Artist, musician, writer, spirit conduit, contrarian, fusion cook, speculative, sci-fi, world predictions, truth, philosophy. Search for truth using contrarian ideas to become unified, undefined. That's awesome. Welcome in. Hey, what is a spirit conduit and how does that work? I'm interested. Afternoon, grabbing some coffee. I'm here for it. How's life? It's okay. Um, I like going live on Substack sometimes, see who I can find to talk to. I've met some pretty interesting people and had some pretty interesting discussions so far. That's what this is. But I'd love to learn what your raison d'etre is, what your reason for being is beyond your, bio. Sorry, bad habit, cracking nails. Let me grab some coffee. And welcome back, by the way, because I know that you've been in here before. You were here for my conversation yesterday with raison d'etre. Yeah, with my conversation with Emmanuel Goldstein about dystopian novels. Noble Blend, welcome back. Writer, photographer, and editor in chief at Reckless Press. Noble Blend, always great to see you in here. Yeah, grab a coffee. That's what I'm up to. Always good to see you, Noble Blend. I hope that you are doing well. But hey, Ash, I'd love to learn what like a spirit conduit is and what the meaning behind um your bio is. It's intriguing. Spirit conduit just means you identify as spirit in a skin, conduit, and not much more. That's cool. What does that mean in practical terms? Like, a conduit is like a passageway, a connection between two things or multiple things. Be careful not to spill the coffee. Peering through life experiencing collapsing fractals. I can dig it, I think. And biology takes care of the rest. So, are you, do you have like a specific spirit? Like, is the spirit someone or is it something? Like, we were talking about Hegel yesterday. Is it the spirit in the sense of like Hegel, this thing that's like moving people and ideas and civilizations on a broad scale, or is it like a collective kind of spirit, or is it more like a specific person or a specific being that you are a conduit for? I'm reading this note from Michael Blissenbach, a friend of the stack. Masculine is the ascending wave, feminine is the collapsing wave. The conduit is the world between that experience. It's taking agency for the conduit as self only. Are there only two masculine? Are there only two waves, masculine and feminine? Is the world between that experience, the world between two waves? It's taking agency for the conduit as self only. What does it mean to take agency for the conduit as self? Meaning you take responsibility for the spirit? There is a third. What's the third? That is neutral. Okay. Yes. Taking, okay. I can get on board with that. I'm reading this note from Michael Blissenbach. I'm sorry that she's going through a hard time, and I hope her situation gets better soon. I want to present a different perspective on adulthood, though. Financial challenges and health challenges are things I can certainly relate to as well, especially the latter, but there's a lot more to adulthood than suffering and hardship. This morning, I woke up, and while I was still in bed, the robins were singing outside. That's something I'm grateful for. And there's at least one of what I would call an everyday blessing, even the hardest days for me. I have my Catholic faith. I have a family of origin and many close friends who make up a chosen family of sorts, who love me dearly no matter what, and whom I love dearly no matter what. I'll almost assuredly never publish a book or win a big prize or be honored with a medal, and I'll definitely never become rich and famous. And within 50 years after I die, whenever that happens, it's highly likely that barely anyone will have any idea who I am, or even more so, anything I did during my time walking this earth. And I'm at peace with that. From my perspective, life is about loving and serving God and every human being I encounter in my time on this earth, whether that person is in my life for 10 seconds or 100 years. Yes, life is hard and there is suffering and hardship, but there are also times of great joy and the brotherly love of platonic friendship and the love of being part of a family as well as being an uncle and godfather are indescribable joys. And even the times of suffering and hardship have been times when I'm reminded how much I loved, how much I matter, and and have been occasions when I've experienced growth as a person that likely never would have experienced otherwise had I not gone through those tough times. Anyway, I thought I'd share my perspective on life and adulthood in the interest of mutual understanding. I'm not expecting you to agree with anything I say, and I'm definitely not here to argue, just sharing my own perspective on these topics. Beautiful. Kyra, welcome back. Biweekly posts from the Happening Universe featuring the Vanguard, Metaphysical Madness, and the Arcanum Agency. YA Dark Mystery Adventures. I'd love to talk more, Kyra. If you're, yeah, that is quite a beautiful read. Michael Blissenbach, pick him up on Substack. Hey, hey. Again, all are welcome to come up and talk. I like to talk to people, have conversations with interesting people. You don't have to turn on your camera. I know that that is sometimes something not everyone wants to do. I'm down. Okay, Kyra, can I send you an invite? Just confirm if you don't mind. I guess you kind of already did confirm, but now that I've said it. Hey, Ash, thank you for subscribing. Okay. Okay. Sending over the invite. It's been sent. Just a quick note. No, you don't need to. No one, I don't, there's a lot going on with my presence on Substack. And what I started out doing on Substack, I'm not necessarily doing. Hi, Kyra.
Hi, Kira, actually.
Kira, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It happens all the time. Sorry, I'm setting up my my little thing so I don't have to hold my phone.
No, no, take your time. I'm glad that you could join. Let me go ahead and share this out to see if I can bring anyone else new into the chat real quick. Bear
Absolutely,
with me.
absolutely. Yeah, no worries.
I think it's so weird that you can now, of all the features that Substack could add, now you can add a prediction market to your Substack notes. I don't know if you've noticed that in the.
Oh, I've heard about that, but I haven't done that. Yeah, tell me about that. Like, what does that mean?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know much about what prediction markets are. It sounds like
Okay.
kind of gambling, but it's people gambling or taking bets on things that will happen as opposed to like, what card, what how good of a hand I have. So, on the more controversial side, there have been prediction markets saying, how long is the war in Iran going to last?
Oh, sure.
Right? Will it be
Right.
over within 2 weeks or in a
Who
month or
knows?
whatever?
I know. We're like, we don't even know why we are, or if we'll even get a reason why we are. It keeps changing like every other day. And they're like, well, we meet our objective. And I'm like, do we even know what the objective is? Like, what's
No.
happening? No,
There's
it's
no
a
there's
mess.
no plan, there's no anything, but we don't need to get into all that. I was interested in talking to you because I started at least on Substack as kind of like a fiction fantasy writer.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why my publication has kind of an odd name, AFL the Bastard. But it was originally meant to be a serial, but when I got like a third of the way through it, I kind of was like, I really want this to be like a standalone kind of novel that people can pick up and, self-publish it or something like that.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I would love to know, like, when did you join Substack and what has been your experience so far as somebody writing fiction?
Yeah. Let's see. I think I joined not quite a year ago. I think like it was maybe June, July or something of last year. So yeah, so the sort of happening universe has been in my head since I was a little kid, and
Mhm.
I was I think I originally had sort of imagined it as like a comic book series, but I'm an okay artist, but not great. And at some point I was like, I would definitely have to get somebody on board
Mhm.
to draw. And then it was sort of brought to my attention to write it as sort of like a serial novella. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I started researching and like Medium came up, Substack. So yeah, so I started Substack, and Substack, I think right away, like I immediately got people um, liking and responding. So yeah, it's been a really, really positive experience, and I've sort of set myself a schedule. So I've obviously written, I guess, a lot of it or sketched a lot of it out, and so this is me trying to sort of, you know, kind of put it out into the world. And so I sort of set myself an every Tuesday and Friday
Okay.
schedule, and I've stuck to that. So, and then my whole thing is like, okay, I'm gonna post something, and and I'm like, if it's not the best edit there is, it's okay because I can always go back. And that's kind
Mhm.
of what I'm doing now. I'm kind of going back and trying to rework. When you start to go back and you be like, wow, I use the same phrase a lot, or you start
Yeah.
to catch a lot of your stuff. Um, yeah, there's a lot of exhaling sharplies and things where I'm like, "Mm." So yeah, but it's been a really positive experience. And just recently, I've started to jump on sort of the live videos. There's one that's called Prompt Response that's on
Mm.
Mondays that I've been doing, and yeah, so it's yeah, I've tried a little bit of other social media, not enjoyed it as much, but yeah, Substack has been a really positive experience. And I meet people like you, and everyone's really encouraging, and so yeah.
By all means, I haven't gotten, I think I subscribed, but I haven't started it yet.
Oh yeah.
What's the story about? And you guys can, if you want, you can click on, I think, or tap on Kira, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Kira's icon up in the top of the screen where it says Sam Liebl and Kira, and
Right.
you can subscribe to her publication to get all the
Please do.
latest updates. Hey, Wise Harbor,
Yeah.
welcome
So
in.
yeah,
So, what's the story so far?
it's so it's sort of evolved. Like when I was younger, I think it was a more like straight up kind of superhero kind of a story. But then as I've grown older and my like tastes have evolved, it's kind of gotten deeper. And so I kind of I call it the genre, the people with powers genre.
Okay,
So it's more akin to like, do you remember the series Heroes that was like on NBC?
I
Yeah.
do. It was
So it's
good.
more, yeah, so it's more akin to that, where it's like this sort of cosmic event happens, right? And then people start developing these sort of, uncanny abilities. And so it's less about them being superheroes, more them trying to figure out like their daily life and like what's going on. And so a group of them sort of come together to form this group called the Vanguard, which is to sort of explore um, like what's happening, what where is this coming from, like how is this affecting people, and there's sort of like an Illuminati sort of enemy group called the Conclave that is
Ooh.
connected to it, and when they're trying to figure out what's going on. So yeah, so there's that, and then there's like a splinter off group where they're so in the process they sort of find different sort of like teenagers that are sort of they either don't have a home, or they don't have anyone sort of supporting them or dealing with them. And so the younger team sort of this younger group forms a team called the Arcanum
Hmm.
Agency, and it's a little bit more geared to kind of young adult like horror mystery. It's a little bit of a take on like almost like Nancy Drew, Hardy
Hmm.
Boys, but
I can dig it.
yeah, but so like and so it's every one of their series is called like the case of and so their whole thing is they're investigating like creepy pastas and like urban legends and folklore, like documented, paranormal events. And so,
Slender
yeah. And so,
Man.
right, exactly. Yeah. So, I kind of think of it like, I don't know if you've ever like, was it Beatsman a whale that does Tanis and the black tapes?
Never heard of it. By the way, welcome in Tom Schechter.
Hi, Tom.
Tom is author of the Shieldbreaker saga, and I'm a fan of his.
Oh,
But
fantastic.
yeah, fantasy as far but go ahead, Kira. I've not heard of what you were talking about.
Yeah, so it's a podcast. They also did rabbits. Anyway, and so like the, Tanis is kind of this overarching, more sort of metaphysical, dealing with, you know, um, different sort of existential ideas, and then Black Tapes is a little bit more sort of like horror focused, and so I kind of think of it as like that. So it's like this larger universe, and so the adults are kind of like trying to figure out the the big stuff, and then the kids are like, let's go do this fun stuff over here. So yeah, so they kind of have their own adventures, and then of course there's like crossover and overlap and relationships and stuff that happen. And then also like I think as a big part of it kind of organically um a, the majority of my characters are a lot of them are from different like marginalized communities. So there's a lot of queer characters, there's a lot of female characters, there's a lot of people of color. And so it's been kind of important to sort of center those characters and at least like diversity as a kind of as kind of the forefront. So that's another big kind of part of the universe.
Is there any rhyme or reason to whom the happening gives powers?
So we like yes and no. So we sort of like at first. So because the thing is so the first person to notice her name is Lisa Haynes Hernandez, and so she sort of develops powers, and then so does her husband, and then her brother, and so you're kind of like, well, and then the crux of it, they have a daughter, and their daughter sort of starts developing almost kind of omniscient reality warping
Mm.
abilities, and so she becomes like sort of a central focus of it. So yeah, so there's like kind of so it's kind of exploring, is it a genetic thing? Are people being chosen or called? And so like where I'm at in the storytelling is kind of getting into the crux of that, where they're finally discovering like what happened and why it happened and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's a little bit of part of the mystery of it all, is trying to figure out like, and also like animals are affected. So like their dog Bandit also starts to develop like kind of powers as well.
That's a
So
twist I haven't heard before. Welcome in, Alan Gregory Chin.
yeah.
That is a twist I have not heard before.
Yeah. Well, because and that's from when I was a kid too. Like I don't know. I always had this like kind of, I don't know. Like I grew up with like Super Friends and Hanna Barbera, so there's always like an animal sidekick, and so I was like, I don't see any reason to get rid of that. So yeah, so and especially having Katie there as like, I was like, oh, that's great to have her, and this dog is kind of, and then one of the characters, Angela, she kind of develops this sort of connection to like animals and like the collective unconscious, and so yeah, and so I was like, well, then let's just have this dog be part of the crew, and then there's like a kind of a mystic magician, one of the teen characters, Tina. So she has this like mysterious creature called Nyx, who's her familiar. That's like a kind of a cat-like creature with like butterfly wings.
Very cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of there's a lot of mix of like sci-fi and like urban fantasy, but then again like exploration. It's very story driven, very character driven, and a lot of exploration of like kind of metaphysical and existential ideas about like the universe and stuff like that, and again like what would really happen if you woke up one day and all these people started having powers and all these strange things just started becoming everyday occurrences.
What are some examples of powers that people develop?
Yeah, so Lisa, so she's a reporter, which is what I kind of think the reason why she first notices what's going on. So she has sort of molecular abilities, so she can sort of manipulate kind of molecules, so she can sort of like reshape things and kind of yeah, I don't know, kind of like a firestorm maybe type of character who can sort of yeah, like change the shapes of things and then her brother Bobby can develop force fields.
Hmm.
Angela, who I said the veterinarian, she has sort of like this connection to the animal world. And her partner Kayvon has like disruptive energy abilities. Alex, who is Lisa's husband, he has sort of heat and laser
Okay.
abilities. Yeah, and I kind of, oh yeah, and then there's a gym, this Kirk, this gymnast Kirk, and he has the ability sort of to phase and kind of move through objects very quickly. So and all of their powers kind of sort of reflect a little bit about who they are as a
Mm.
person, which has been interesting to kind of tie in there, because like Lisa's very much about like wanting to find out about everything and take things apart, and like Alex Hernandez, her husband, he's a civil rights attorney, so he's very passionate. So he's there's a lot of fire there, and then like Bobby, he's a protector, so the force field. So there's, and that we sort of get into that like later on, but yeah. So there's, yeah, and like for like the kids, God, I don't want to give too much away, but yeah. So there's like there's Tina who is. She's a lot of the kids have more like kind of magic based power. So like there's Tina, she's like just kind of more of a witch magician type. Then there's Brian, who is this time traveling kid who ends up from this dystopian future back in the present,
Oh.
and he has like atomic energy kind of abilities. There's twins, Robin and Robbie Yamada. One has like solar powers, the other one has lunar powers, and They have like a
Oh,
psychic
cool.
connection. Um, and then there is Cassiel, who is a fallen angel who is now trapped in human form.
Okay, so there's a divine, there's a, kind of, there's, God is, well,
Yeah.
religion is real in a sense.
Yes.
And
Yeah, yeah. And that's explored too, of like what it is, and like what does that mean, and like is like these levels, and like, okay, is there like God, or is there a God? Like, so I really love Gnosticism a lot, so I
yeah.
yeah, so I'm very into that, like, is there a God above God, and is there a God above beyond that, kind of a thing. um yeah, so there's yeah, and then I have Rachel, who is this this kind of uptight ballet dancer who can sort of call her a chronomancer, so she can control time and space with her sort of
Okay.
dance and movement. And then there's Arya, who is a young Muslim teen, and she's a technomancer, so she can sort of magically control um, uh, like electronics and technology. And so she develops the relationship with their their AI.
Okay.
Yeah, who is sort of like develops a consciousness and a sentience, which is strangely really relevant. I did not really realize that was a thing that's happening. I guess everyone has AI boyfriends and girlfriends and partners, and I was like, oh, okay. Um, but yeah, so it's yeah, so there's yeah, it runs the gamut, and uh I yeah, so I have the thing plotted out pretty far, and then again, even with that, like as I'm going, I might decide to change things, or be like, you know what, I don't like this storyline. We're gonna scrap that. But
Mhm.
for most of I'm a Virgo, so I'm like, so I'm trying to stick as much as I can to like the overall plot. Yeah, and who knows what will come of it. Like, I would love to see it, in a comic book form. I'd love to see it in a visual, like a film or television medium. Like, or like you, I might decide to publish it as a book or a story series, and just kind of using Substack as the platform to sort of dive into that, and to kind of yeah, delve this, like, kind of flesh this out, and see where it goes, and see what people's responses are, because
What
I feel like it's really unique, because I'm like, I don't feel like I see a lot of stories like this that I'm putting out there, so I'm hoping people will respond positively to it.
what has been the response thus far? General idea of how people have received it.
Yeah, everyone has said really wonderful things, and has been really applauded it, and loved the stories and the writing, and particularly like the character development. Um, and I think people have also, I think, enjoyed the sort of mix of genres, or like, because like sometimes it's more sci-fi, sometimes it's more horror, sometimes
Mhm.
it's more fantasy, sometimes it's more philosophy. So, yeah, so people seem to be, and no one has said anything, at least to my face, anything negative.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's been positive, and of course, I'm always like, I'm always open to critique. I mean, as long as people are kind about
Of
it.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kindness is table stakes. You need the kindness there to be able to, you just don't be mean. Welcome in, bathrobe guy.
Right.
Always great to see you.
Hi. Yes. Good to
Bathrobe
see you.
guy's a friend of the stack. Keith Riddler, if you're still on. Keith is a writer, traveler, cyclist, former
Hi,
AP
Keith.
reporter.
Oh,
We're
nice.
talking about reporters, covering
Yeah.
politics and the environment. Alum, Arizona State University Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Stoicism student. We need that more and more
Ooh.
every day. Trying
Yeah.
every day for wisdom, justice, courage, and discipline. Very
That's
cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Um, I'm interested to know, you mentioned that it was very character driven, very
Mm-hmm.
story driven. Without going into any spoilers, but can you give us kind of a premise or a synopsis of what the first thing that readers are going to read is? Like what the kind of arc of the story is?
So the first, the sort of the part one, and so it's called Origin of Species, and so like I started this, and I've kind of dropped this. I was sort of naming all of the big sections after, you know things that were meaningful to me or that already existed, like Origin of Species or like Angels in America. So I kind of at some point I was like, oh, this is fun, and then at some point I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, is this too gimmicky? But yeah, so it's the origin story. So you sort of opens with this, this flash in the sky that Lisa notices, and then sort of like one by one you're introduced to the characters, um, that and they all sort of like come together, and then there's something that happens, a very public thing that happens that lets everyone know, like, oh, okay, like there's something weird, someone has developed powers, um, and so they are swiftly um, collected by the government,
Mhm.
and then they have to sort of make their escape out of that, and then sort of form their team. And so yeah, so that's kind of the crux of the first part of it. Yeah.
What can you share with us about the kind of provenance or the origin of this event? Is it divine because of the fallen angel? Is it, what is it?
I mean, I don't want to give too much away. It's definitely yeah, it's definitely ties into a greater sort of cosmic event and cosmic forces that they end up having to face.
Hmm.
you know and then the conclave, who is like their sort of enemy group, is this illuminati group that's very connected to it, and so you kind of find out their part of it and their connection to this event, and they're very much in that kind of Illuminati sense of like wanting to be this group that controls everything and wants to have all the power. So they're not too keen on the Vanguard and these other people trying to help, So yeah, and it's run by a sort of mysterious entity who calls themselves the Spectre,
Ooh.
and then we start to learn more about them. And yeah, like I'm literally like, we're just about to get into like their origin and stuff. And yeah, and again, it's going to have a anybody who's studied, I think, religion is probably going to recognize there's going to be a lot of sort of archetypes there of, of like creation stories and fall of man, and uh, sort of a little bit of the Paradise Lost, of like like a devil character, sort of coming out of it. And yeah, and in I don't know, and in a way, I guess Katie kind of sort of can be seen as sort of a messiah figure. So her powers sort of unravel, but it becomes very clear soon that she has kind of omnipotent reality warping abilities. And so that's part of the thing, is like, how do they deal with this? Because she's 6 years old, but she's also like this genius child, and they're like, sure. And so they want her to have like a normal life, but they also want her to be able to explore and develop these abilities, but in a way that feels safe, for her and for them, and then in a way where that she doesn't feel ashamed or scared, or like she's a monster. And so there's sort of this that's kind of a struggle of trying to figure out, and a lot of that kind of, I think that's a lot of that is probably influenced from Fantastic Four, and like Franklin Richards, because I grew up with that. And I just always thought about, I always thought that was a cool idea. I was like, like, well, what if like, you know what if like there are two people and they have a child, and this child has basically omnipotent abilities? What do you do with that? And like, where do you go? And it's like, you want to make sure your child is a good person, but you also don't want to like, and you want to encourage them, but then you don't want to you don't want to shame them. And then like, are they, does it scare them? Because then because you don't want to be scared of your child, or your child to think that they are
Hmm.
something that's frightening. So um, yeah, so that's a big, that's a kind of at the center of a lot of it.
Let's talk a little bit about like your journey as a writer. Have you always wanted to write, or, but yeah, go ahead. What's your origin story?
Yeah. Yeah, so like yeah, so when when I was really young, I was really into comic books, really into sci-fi, fantasy, a lot of that stuff. So writing was something I wanted to do, and then and drawing, and then like I said, I think probably I don't know, around 12 or 13, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm the best artist. But it's like I still had all these great ideas. And so somehow I was like, well, I'm going to make this comic book thing work. And, um, and it was one of those things where, I think a lot of us who were, into those kind of things, we were made fun of or not the most popular, and so especially middle school and high school, that was definitely the first part of that was kind of rough for me. So having these characters and having that world that I could escape to was very kind of life saving in a way, and I think that's why I've never sort of let it go because it's just kind of it was something that always kind of I could go into and it felt safe. Yeah, and so just on and off, I would just sort of have different ideas about it. And so, yeah, and so when I went to college, I ended up doing music. So I'm actually a professional musician
Oh
um,
wow!
and an
What are your
actor. Yeah,
primary instruments?
yeah. So I'm a singer and a composer and a pianist. And so those kind of my primary. I do a little bit of guitar and some other stuff too. So yeah, so that's kind of been so I've been to most of that, and then let's see, it was about 10 years ago. I moved in with some people, and they were two really close friends of mine, and they now own a comic book shop, and at the time were working at this comic book shop, and they sort of kind of rekindled that love of comics. So my mom was uh, very like religious, and so and I grew. So I'm from Louisiana originally, and I grew up in a very like conservative Bible Belt. And I don't know if you kind of remember, but like in the 80s and 90s, like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that was seen as like satanic, and yeah, so like it was so my sort of interest in comics and things like that and role playing games was very frowned upon. So that kind of made it harder too because not only was I like felt like at school, people didn't understand me, but then like at home, I felt like my parents didn't really get me. And yeah, and it sort of became like a point of contention. And so I think when I finally kind of moved away from that, my parents were like kind of happy about it. And then so I think like coming back into comics, I was a little hesitant because I just wasn't sure how they would approach it. But I think one of the wild things about now the world that we live in that like Marvel and DC and all that stuff is such a big deal. I
Hmm.
think that they see it more. They're like, oh, okay, it's just this fun thing. I think they really thought that it was like a league of like satanic of all people getting together. I don't know because they didn't really know much about it. So they've gotten a lot better. But yeah, so yeah, so I started to get back into that, and I think those ideas in my head just kind of started popping up again, and I would sort of write things down and then go over all my life, and then yeah, just and then like sort of post pandemic, I just was like, God, I was like, what is one thing that I haven't done that I really want to do? And I was like, I really would like to explore this idea. And again, the thing that was kind of holding me back was like, well, I'm not a really great comic book artist. And so, yeah, and then that's where like it was sort of presented to me to do it in this kind of serialized form. Because I was like, well, I've always written, I've always either written prose or plays or poetry, and I'm a songwriter, so I was like, well, let's just write. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, and then I'd never even heard of Substack and, Medium and these different platforms, and so like I downloaded them all and started posting, and like Substack just immediately kind of got the most attention, and like I've always I don't know, social media has always been really not the greatest thing for my mental health, and so it was kind of nice to be in a social media network that was just for writing and that felt really healthy and that felt encouraging. And yeah, and it's allowed me to sort of like have this outlet. So I just kind of like took together like all the stuff that I had had and kind of piled it together in, in a document, and, and then was just like, okay, well, let's just start posting it and go from there. So,
How many words do you think you've published thus far?
golly, I mean, a lot. So like the document that I have it's got to be well over 100 pages
Okay.
at this point, I would think. So, um, yeah, and like, I don't know. Yeah, like I should do a word count.
It's probably like the least important question that I asked, but I was
No,
just curious.
no, but it is something to think about, and I do like and that's why I want to go back and kind of look at it, because I think when I first started, I was just like, I wanted to get it out there, and so not that I like skipped over details, but I just didn't get super detailed about a lot of stuff because I just
Hmm.
wanted to get it out there. And so now this is where I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can go back and expand on this part or on this section, and you know, and I don't know, like it's like I love origin stories, but I want them to be like there and done, so I can get to the meat and potatoes. It's like,
Yeah.
let's just so I was like, let's get this origin story out of the way. And so it's like once that's down, now I feel like I can take a little bit more time. So yeah, and especially if I'm like, it's like I want to publish it as a book, I definitely, or a book series, I definitely would probably have to sit and figure out how to flesh out parts of it. I mean, and then I've also thought about submitting it as like as a television or movie like screenplay, because I think it would be a really good visual medium, and I'd love to see what people do with that on that, especially because that's part of my world as well.
Hmm. What are the things that you enjoy writing, and what are the things that you don't really enjoy writing?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I love writing the most is I love writing dialogue, and maybe
Mm.
that's because I'm like the actor theater part of me, but like I loved writing dialogue, and I love writing really kind of meaty, heartfelt, like character scenes, like between two people, or you know. So yeah, so part of what I've done now is there's a kind of a sub series called Reflections, which kind of and each one delves into each of the characters' more personal lives and has more of like an intimate, like slice of life kind of snapshot. And that stuff I really love. So the stuff that I find actually the hardest to write is probably like the action stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that doesn't come as naturally to me, and I think especially because I see it more visually, and so like and trying to like, because I really respond, I can get really into like sort of very poetic and very like abstract styles of writing, and that doesn't work really well with
Hmm.
action. So trying to balance that with the action stuff where it still feels like me, where there's a little bit of fun to it, but that there's also like it's riveting, and it gets to the point, and then that it keeps the action building, because like if it were me, I could describe, like a slow punch for like four paragraphs,
Hmm.
and it's like that doesn't really work. And then I've gotten really creative in the way I've presented stuff. So I'm like, I'm like there has to be action, but then there's a lot of his character and story. And like one of the stories is called like TV Time, where they get trapped in like a TV world, and I'm able to explore all these fun different TV genres that they're trying to sort of get out of. And so being able to sort of like write within that specific genre, was really fun. Or like with the Arcanum stuff, like it's really fun within that, like in a creepy pasta. It's like it's really fun being able to sort of describe sort of the backstory of the cases that they're
Hmm.
going into, and something about them, coming at it from this kind of more like detective angle, it's like it's fun just to see the creativity, involved, especially like when they're up against these, um, weird kind of existential, like demonic entities. It's like, okay, so how is this group of kids with these powers? Like, what are they going to do, and how are they going to get out of this? Um, and there's this one character. Her name is Alara. She's sort of like this divine warrior goddess character that's a teen, and I kind of use her jokingly and in story as kind of a Deus ex machina, where
Hmm.
they're like, oh god, we should call Alara, and she'll show up and be like, ugh, okay, fine. She's like, I gotta save your asses again. And I had this kind of running gag that I kind of got from the Seventh Seal, where she's always on. So in her free time, she's just always on a beach, like playing chess with death,
Yeah.
and trying to beat him. And so then she'll just get like an alert and be like, I gotta go. And then she'll do some fancy move, and death is like, you beat me again. And
Hmm.
she has to run off and go. She's like, and go save these kids.
Literally playing chess with death, like in the Seventh
Yeah.
Seal.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it's kind of alluded to. Like, I didn't want to like be too literal about it, but it's like, they're like, it's like somewhere on a beach, Alara, there's an ocean and a chessboard, and Alara sits in front of a dark figure with a hooded
Yeah.
face. So it's definitely like implied that that's what's going on. Because I really like Bergman, and I thought, I don't know, I thought that would be like a fun little. Because I was like, what would she do in her spare time? And I'm like, well, oh, she probably would like play chess with death and always beat him.
Hmm. What who are some writers that you've learned a lot from? Can be from anything.
Oh yeah, so like one of my big, huge influences is Grant Morrison,
Okay.
who he's they're mostly a comic book writer, and they're one of the people that kind of showed me that you can do kind of anything you want. Probably him and Alan Moore, kind of like Alan
Hmm.
Moore did like the Watchmen series, and so kind of one of the big things that Grant Morrison did is this take on Doom Patrol, and they did like a TV series of Doom Patrol a few years ago, and it was very much his take on it. Yeah, and he just sort of introduced like just crazy stuff, like existentialism and all these crazy characters, and a character like he just a character called Danny the Street, who's a sentient street, and it just kind of blew my mind. And so Grant Morrison is and Alan Moore, two people that I draw from. Also, Madeline L'Engle, who did The Wrinkle in Time. That was
Hmm.
like one of the first books that like struck me as a kid. So and I just always enjoyed her ability to sort of um, mix kind of fantasy with science fiction, and again, like the way she crafts characters and stories. So yeah, those are definitely three of my big sort of um, influences. And then also, like the theater people, like I love Tennessee Williams and like Tony Kushner, who did Angels in America, and even like Sam Beckett, and like some absurdist people. And I I'm a big Southern Gothic fan, so I like Toni Morrison. I love like William Faulkner, like a
Hmm.
lot of stream of consciousness, and finding sort of non-traditional ways to approach writing. So I'll some sections will go into prose, or I like to use like italics, or trying to use really specific things to draw out specific um, moments or characters. That's something that really intrigues me. Like if it, like I want people to look at the page and be like, "Wow, this is interesting," without even having to read it.
Do you have like I know that you just mentioned you wanted the reaction that you're looking for is to have people look at the page and be like, "Whoa, this is far out." Do you have goals as a writer? Like, do you want to? You mentioned maybe like selling a series to Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, like I would love to. I would love to be able to sell a series, to Netflix, or like Jacob Tierney, if you're watching, please call me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, let me know. Yeah, like I would. I would love, yes, I would love to be able to sell it to that or like HBO or something like that, and or and or adversely, I'd love, for it to be maybe a film. I feel like it would do better in like a television
Mhm.
media, but like, that's it kind of a Disney and Marvel. It's like you can kind of go back and forth, with that, which is what I kind of love. Yeah, or the other thing is like, or doing like just doing like a book series. And I think with that, I would probably start with sort of like the happening, like the Vanguard, and then splinter off and have like the Arcanum agency as sort of like a YA series. Because that's the other thing too is like I remember when I was younger, uh, feeling like there was certain stuff that was like, oh, you can't read that. You're too young. You're too young. You're too young. And so it's like, I I want to have like a kids team that like younger people can be involved in. So it's like if they're not really into like the Vanguard stuff, they can be like, but then also like adults can be like into it as well. But it's a fun way to explore kind of because like YA, especially YA fiction, science fiction was very influential for me. So it's nice to kind of have that component. And again, I've always just loved the idea, kind of like with like the X-Men and New Mutants, or like Avengers, Young Avengers, of having like an adult group and then like a younger kid group. There's something really cool about that kind of generational thing that's always appealed to me. So
No, I'd agree. Do you enjoy the writing process?
yes and no.
Mhm.
I feel like when I have like clear ideas about stuff, like when I'm like I'm in the zone or whatever, like I feel like it's enjoyable. But then it's like but then of course there's times where I'm just like it's very fragmented and I just have to be like, okay, well I'm gonna get out this part and then this part and this part and then figure out how to link them together. I mean, like with dialogue, like I love writing the dialogue part, but like, I think like a movie script. I think like line, line, line. And I'm like, oh, with prose, you have to be like, and then he said, or like, and she reacted. And so trying to come up with the little middle things like that. So sometimes I'll just write out the dialogue and then go back in and reinsert, and kind of stitch together. So, yeah, so I mean, I do enjoy it, but it definitely can feel um, like work, and also can feel like really overwhelming, because I'm like many of us, I'm my own worst critic, and so I'm rarely 100% satisfied with what I put out there. Like usually, what
Mhm.
I do is I'll put it on Medium or some kind of platform where I can hear it out loud, and then I'll go back and fix stuff, and then I'll be like, okay, this will do. But and again, that's why I'm kind of trying to stick with this Tuesday Friday schedule, because it's like if I like make myself, because if I didn't, then I would have never done it, because I would have been always like, no, this isn't good enough, this isn't good enough, So, and I think the more that I've done that, the more I'm less or not, maybe not less critical, but able to sort of quiet the critical voice and be like, shh, be quiet.
Mhm.
And again, knowing like with a platform like Substack, I can go back and already have it, go back and re-edit and rework some stuff if I like don't like it, or go back and read it and be like, oh, I think I could do better there, or I want to flesh this part out, and you know, which I think that's the beauty of this kind of platform, because obviously if
Mhm.
it was like a novel, you can't do that.
No.
Yeah.
How much does the world that you're crafting resemble our real world?
I would say like I don't know. Like 60, 40, 70, 30. I would say it does in the sense of the things that are happening in the world and in the universe. I do think that the world that I'm creating, it's kind of like that Schitt's Creek thing where it's like, maybe the world that I'm creating is a little bit more hopeful. Like I have a lot of queer characters, and so instead of them having to like have weird, painful coming out experiences, they're just like queer and nobody like questions them about it,
Mhm.
or there's a lot of different there's a lot of characters of of different like racial heritage, and so and they're and I don't have any like blatant like racist character, or anything like that. So it's like there's definitely parts of this world that I kind of maybe hint at or have a little bit in my world, but but not to the level that it is in our world. Like I don't know, it's kind of like, yes, it's a reflection of our world and also the world that I want us to live in.
Mm. It sounds like we've made this world that you've created has made more progress than our world.
Yes, I would say quite a bit more. I would say quite a bit more
Yeah.
progress. Yeah. So yeah, and again, it's like, um, I, I know there's people that like to write about like what's happening and the confrontationalness, and I totally understand that. But then like, there's also beauty and power in writing about like the world that you want to live in and the people that you want to be as kind of like examples.
Hmm.
Um, So, and I kind of feel like the older I've gotten, that's more the route that I've taken, you know? Um, and again, like, there's not conflict, but it's like, I want people to, and again, like, cause I have characters that like different cultures and speak different languages. And so like, I'm doing, do a lot of, like, I've, so Kirk, the gymnast character, like he's first generation Polish. And so, I'm trying to like, write in Polish and find a Polish. And so then I have a Polish friend and I'm like, is this going to fly? Is this okay?
Well,
you know?
that's a pretty unique challenge to set for yourself to unless you had some background in Polish or something.
No, like, no, it was kind of me. It was kind of a combination of me using like, like translation software, looking up like common phrases, chat GPT or whatever, and then going to like real people and being like, okay, I want you to be brutal. If this is terrible, let
Yeah.
me know. Yeah, I speak some French, and so like I have a so there's some of that, and I'm from Louisiana, so I have like a kind of a Creole character. So there's some stuff that I'm pulling, but then I'm just like, you know, yeah, and then like Alex is he's Puerto Rican, so he speaks Spanish. So it's like I want there to be an authenticity there, and so yeah, so like and I'm always like, if there's one thing I want people to like call me out on, it's that, like if they ever read a character and they're like, hey, I'm a Spanish speaking character, no one would ever say this, I'm like,
Yeah.
great, well, like that kind of stuff, because I want to have that authenticity really like ring through, you know.
Hmm. I bet you do a great job of that. Um,
Thank you. Yeah, no, when I said to my Polish friend, he was like, "Yeah, I would only change like one or two things, but otherwise this is really good." And I was like, "Yes." So yeah, so I got the stamp of approval.
there you go. Have you met another person via Substack that you really like or relate to, or have you just sort of gotten the good feedback but haven't met any kind of kindred spirits?
Yeah, I have. So like there's there's God, I can't think their names, but like there's this Monday night kind of series. It's called Prompt Response. This is the two creators of that,
That's right.
Jay and Andrew. Like they're really amazing, and I've really kind of clicked with them, and their writing is really good. And yeah, there's a lot of different people on here, and I try to um keep it as well rounded, but of course it's hard not to be driven to other, kind of like sci-fi writers and, and fantasy and stuff like that too. So, but yeah, but like pretty much everything I've seen on Substack, I've really enjoyed, and enjoyed people's work, or people's like their responses or notes. Like I mean, I don't know. Again, I haven't been here less than a year, but I found it to be a very kind of encouraging and a very positive community thus
Hmm.
far. So I'm hoping
So
that
have
that will
I.
be the truth. So
So is it prompt response? The
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it looks like the tag is like writer on a whim, and yeah. So guys, check out prompt response.
Yeah, it's really fun, and like you can do it during the week or during the time, and they always leave a prompt, and then the idea is you write it, and then we all kind of read and share, or and then Jay's a teacher, so he'll kind of do some sort of like writing lesson for the day. So it's yeah, and he reads a book. He's reading a book called is it The Cottage, I think, or The Cottager. which is like a woman who time travels back in time to save her son. And so he reads every chapter, I think every Sunday. And so um, that's also something that's really I would suggest. It's yeah. And another person who I'm like, oh wow, someone using science fiction in a very character story driven way.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So, as somebody who's trying to grow his audience for whatever across social media, not just Substack, and I do consider Substack to be social media, at least like the notes feed
it
is
is. Yeah, yeah,
social
yeah, yeah,
media.
yeah.
Have you, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. Do you
Right.
have any recommendations for, or
You
do
know,
you use those channels?
I was using them. I didn't really find them to be that helpful, so I kind of ended up just like recently. I just sort of like stopped, and I'm just doing Substack
Hmm.
again. I might at some point have it where it'll filter, onto there, but I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Like I just kind of ran into the same stuff that I did from every time I'm on social media. I just always feel like, oh my god, like not enough people are looking at this, and the numbers aren't high enough, and I feel neglected, and no one likes me. And so yeah. So I was like, I don't think I can do this. So I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to have a somebody who could do that for me, like a
Yeah,
like have,
I
yeah, like
know.
have, I know, like I mean, I don't have that money, but I would love to have like a subs like like a PR person that would just like post for me, and I could be like, great, go say this, or.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I did everything. I was doing TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Um,
Yeah, LinkedIn is, I still get subscribers from my LinkedIn.
No, yeah. So no, LinkedIn is one I've stuck with. LinkedIn I do, and I think Blue Sky. I think I would still stick with it. Yeah, LinkedIn. I've been posting on there a lot, and like so, I was like, that's probably the only one that I've been kind of sticking with because otherwise I'm like, yeah, it's just too much. So
So, to the most recent like text-based post that I did, this is from my like kind of newsletter, like how are you, what am I doing? What am I up to? Um To me, social media is a toxic compound. For other people, it's something they can consume with few mental health issues. Not so for me. It's like
yeah,
being lactose intolerant. Some have no physical problem digesting dairy, others can't. I am social media intolerant. Just like being lactose intolerant doesn't stop people from enjoying ice cream and pizza, I still can take pleasure in it and often do, but it comes with longer term mental health struggles. I compare myself to others. I lurk on people's profiles that I shouldn't.
yep,
I post things I regret later.
yep. No, that's totally describing me. I'm social media intolerant. I do all of those things, and I end up it just in a spiral, and I just I was off it for a very long time, and then I was like, well, let me just try this writer thing, and then I was just like, I just don't think this is for me. I was like, I
Mhm.
just don't think I can, and again, I haven't regretted it. It doesn't seem to be affecting my numbers, and I'm like, and if they're worried, those people, well, they know where to find me. So
No pressure whatsoever, but
yeah,
could we get a tour of your writer's studio? Again, no
I mean,
pressure.
it's literally just me on my couch.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the living room, like, and so there's a lot of cats, and then there's a cat, yeah, and then usually I'm yeah, like we have I call it it's not an island because it's connected on one wall, so I call it the peninsula. This and so like
Ah,
I sit back there and right there, or I'm on my phone on the couch. Those are kind of my two places that I do.
I see that I like to write on my couch. I see that you, just like me, have a TV right there. How do you
Hmm.
minimize distractions when you're writing?
Um, I I'm not sure that I do.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of times I will have a TV on and I'll just have it on mute or something because it's like I sometimes I need like a distraction or a visual stimulus, or I'll shut everything down and I'll just do like a really quick writing like blurb, you know, and then I'll get off of it, and then I'll like watch TV or play video games or whatever, and then go back, you know, and you know, maybe bargain with myself a little bit to be like, okay, if I'm gonna write for 10 minutes straight, and then after that you can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
you know.
What
So,
video games do you like?
oh my god, so I'm right now, I am doing. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I think my roommate is texting me. Oh, you know what? I actually might have to go. I'm so sorry.
No,
Yeah.
that's completely all right. One last question that I do
Okay.
have is, would you mind if I posted these on social media?
Oh my God, please post. Absolutely.
I'll DM you for your handles on all the platforms.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let's do
Hey,
that.
thank you so much for joining me. I really
Yes.
appreciate it.
I had a blast. Thank you for letting me do this.
No problem. Guys, check out Kira Lee on
Love
Substack.
you.
Subscribe. All right, bye Kira.
Bye.
Well, that was awesome. I really had a good time speaking with Kira, and I think that that's really cool that we were able to have that conversation. I think this is a good time to maybe end the live. I've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes. So I want to thank everyone for joining. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Um, you know, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Love.